Hello and welcome. You're watching Race to Power. My name is Mohammed Saleh, and let's start off with some breaking news that's in fact come in relation to the Ukraine war, where according to reports, Ukraine has apparently agreed to the American deal to end the war with Russia, with only minor details that still remain outstanding. Now, there are multiple reports that cite US officials that say that Ukrainians have now agreed to a peace deal. They said that there are some minor details that need to be sorted out, but by and large, they've agreed with the sum and substance of this deal put forth by the Americans. Now, the US official statement appears to go further than the public position of the Ukrainian officials, who also have a delegation present in Abu Dhabi. In a post on X, Ukraine's National Security Secretary Rustem Umerov has written that the delegations had reached a common understanding on the core terms of the agreement that were discussed in Geneva. He further added that Ukraine is looking forward to organizing a visit of Volodymyr Zelensky to the United States to complete the final steps and to make a deal with President Trump. Now, Zelensky had earlier said that more work needs to be done. Now, all of this has come as the US's Army Secretary Dan Driscoll held a meeting with Russian officials in Abu Dhabi. Now, talks are due to continue on Tuesday as well. His spokesperson has said that the talks are going pretty well and they remain optimistic. Now, Russia has struck a positive note but has warned that it could reject an amended US peace plan if its terms are fundamentally different. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that the plan must reflect the spirit and the letter of the understanding that's been reached between Presidents Putin and Donald Trump in Alaska. Now, Russia and Ukraine have traded some deadly strikes overnight, with Russian missile and drone attacks killing at least about 7 people in Kiev. In Romania, the NATO fighter jets were scrambled after at least one Russian drone apparently entered into the Romanian airspace. The Romanian and the German NATO fighter jets were scrambled from the same base near Romania's border with Ukraine to respond to a drone incursion that penetrated deeper than ever into Romanian airspace. Now, Bucharest has called it Russian provocation. All right, now joining us on the broadcast with more updates on this, we've got our correspondent Susan Tehrani, who's joining us live from New York. Susan, this is an important update where this is now what is being said, that the American officials have said that the sum and substance of Donald Trump's 28-point peace plan has been agreed to by the Ukrainians, even though there are reports which state that Volodymyr Zelensky still believes that some more improvements can be done on the peace plan. What are you picking up at your end?
Right, that's right. The original U.S. peace plan was a 28-point plan. According to reports in U.S. officials, that has been revised to a 19-point plan. The sticking points for Ukraine was amnesty for Russian soldiers and downsizing the size of the Ukrainian military. Now, neither Ukrainians or U.S. officials have gone on the record to say that this 28-point plan has been revised to 19 points. However, they do acknowledge that it has been revised. We also have not gotten any word officially from the White House whether or not Ukraine has accepted this. But as you mentioned, the Secretary of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council confirmed that Ukraine has agreed in principle to the core elements of this plan. Now, what does that mean? Where are the sticking points? We're still waiting for that. But the most important aspect right now here is, on the one hand, for Russia to come to the table and make any comments and see this revised plan and see if it will go along with it. And on the second hand, really, we know about this backdoor meeting between Russia and U.S. officials in Abu Dhabi. Russia or Ukraine have not acknowledged that these talks took place in the UAE. So it'll be interesting, first of all, that acknowledgement, and second of all, once this deal gets into Russian hands, how they're going to respond. And what does it mean for the situation on the ground? We have been reporting day in and day out that despite these negotiations happening, and now this is breaking news, that perhaps Ukraine has agreed to the core principles of this agreement, but will Russia continue to attack Ukraine, and will Ukraine continue to retaliate? So what happens on the ground militarily is very important, as well as in the next few hours as this story develops.
Indeed, a lot of details are yet to come. When the guns will fall silent in this war is something that we'll have to wait and watch out for. And that very thorny issue of Ukraine having to cede land, there needs to be more details that have to be put out in terms of what is, of course, being agreed upon. But for the time being, though, thank you very much indeed, Susan Tehrani, for joining us from New York. We'll, of course, come back to you as this story continues to develop. All right, let's now shift our attention to the other big story that we are tracking on a race to power. Now, in a setback, the American President Donald Trump, a federal judge has dismissed criminal cases against the former FBI Director James Comey and the New York's Attorney General Letitia James. The court has ruled that the U.S. attorney who filed the charges at Trump's urging was illegally appointed by the Justice Department. And both James Comey and Letitia James have long been critics of President Trump, and they've accused the Trump Justice Department of violating the U.S. Constitution's Appointments Clause and federal law by appointing Halligan in September. The ruling also throws out two cases Trump had publicly called for as he pushed for Justice Department leaders to move against the high-profile figures who had criticized him and had led investigations into his conduct. Now, Lindsay Halligan, a former personal lawyer to Donald Trump, was named as the interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia in September to lead both the investigations, despite having no prior prosecution experience. The judge found that Halligan had no legal authority to bring indictments against either James or Comey. In a video that was posted on Instagram, Comey said that the case against him was a reflection of what the Department of Justice had become under Donald Trump.
I'm grateful that the court ended the case against me, which was a prosecution based on malevolence and incompetence, and a reflection of what the Department of Justice has become under Donald Trump, which is heartbreaking. But I was also inspired by the example of the career people who refused to be part of this travesty. It cost some of them their jobs, which is painful, but it preserved their integrity, which is beyond price. And I know they will serve again.
Responding to the federal judge's decision, the White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt said that the U.S. Justice Department will appeal the decision to dismiss criminal charges against the former FBI Director James Comey. Now, Karoline Leavitt said that the judge was trying to shield Letitia James and James Comey.
Lindsay Halligan was legally appointed, and that's the administration's position. I know there was a judge who is clearly trying to shield Letitia James and James Comey from receiving accountability, and that's why they took this unprecedented action to throw away the indictments against these two individuals. But the Department of Justice will be appealing very soon, and it is our position that Lindsay Halligan is extremely qualified for this position, but more importantly, was legally appointed to it.
So as FBI Director James Comey oversaw the investigation into the alleged ties between Donald Trump's 2016 election campaign and the Russian government, and later called Trump unfit for office. Letitia James, an elected Democrat, had successfully sued Trump and also his family's real estate company for fraud. The Trump administration is pushing back against Elon Musk testifying in a high-profile lawsuit over the dismantling that was done under the Department of Government Efficiency, or the DOGE initiative. The Justice Department has asked for a federal judge in Maryland to block the deposition of Musk and two former officials, arguing that plaintiffs have not shown the exceptional circumstances that are required to compel the testimony from the senior advisors. The lawsuit further alleges that Elon Musk and other officials had unlawfully directed the agency's dissolution through mass firings, cancelled grants, and also the restructuring of federal programs under DOGE. A federal judge had earlier allowed the case to move forward, rejecting the government's attempt to dismiss it. At the heart of the lawsuit are accusations that Elon Musk had played a direct role in shutting down an agency created by the Congress. And the plaintiffs point to public statements and social media posts in which Elon Musk had appeared to take credit. The administration denies Musk had decision-making authority, calling him only an advisor. The government has further argued that forcing Elon Musk to testify will intrude on White House operations and will raise the separation of powers concerns, even as the lawsuit advances questions continue around DOJ's structure and operations. The administration further insists that the initiative still exists despite reports claiming that it has disbanded, noting that the president's executive order remains in effect. But leadership, staffing and oversight remain unclear. The Office of Management and Budget recently listed 45 DOJ employees, and yet it is unknown as to how many remain or to whom they currently report. Now, DOJ claims to have saved more than $200 billion through cuts and cancellations, though these figures have been widely disputed. With the court now weighing whether Elon Musk and the former officials can be questioned directly, the case is likely to determine the fate of the executive power in the United States of America. All right, now the United Kingdom is just hours away from a crucial budget, one that could decide how much relief families and businesses can get next year. Now, the government is under massive pressure to ease the cost of living crisis without losing control of the country's debt. So what can people expect? Now, behind closed doors, the Chancellor has been rallying her own members of Parliament and has been urging them to stand together. Her message is clear. You will not like every measure, but this is a package deal. After weeks of rumours and leadership speculation that the budget has become a survival test for the government is pretty clear. With public debt near 95% of the GDP and high rates of borrowing, this financial year the budget sets a high bar. Budget 2025 will be delivered, and that is, of course, on the 26th of November. So what is there to be expected? The government is expected to adjust tax thresholds and to target rebates to put more money into the pockets of the people. The large-scale relief may focus on energy bills and essential household costs as families continue to feel the squeeze. Owners of high-value properties could face new levies, especially those with multiple homes. Pension and savings rules may change to encourage long-term investment and to boost retirement security. Now, the government will send a strong signal on borrowing to prove that it can support growth without losing fiscal discipline. The budget, of course, comes at a time when its economy remains very fragile. Inflation stands at about 3.6% and remains above the government target. Unemployment is around 4.3%, with growth being pretty weak and borrowing costs being high. There is little room for large giveaways. Now, on the other hand, high debt and borrowing adds more pressure on Prime Minister Starmer's government. Now, Britain's borrowing is pretty vast, which is about $153 billion in just 7 months. The public sector net debt has risen to near 95% of the GDP, one of the highest levels in recent memory. Every extra dollar that is spent on interest means less money for schools, hospitals and infrastructure. Meanwhile, the investors are also watching pretty closely as the memory of Liz Truss's 2022 mini-budget sell-off still looms pretty large. In the bond market, in the sterling prices, in investors' minds, credibility is everything. And if this budget appears weak on clarity or controlled borrowing costs, could spike and trust could evaporate really quickly. Now, this budget is in fact far more than an announcement. It's actually a test of leadership, vision and confidence for the households. The question, of course, is, will it bring relief? For the markets, will it prove that the United Kingdom can deliver? For the government, will it unite or will it divide? In the southern Indian state of Karnataka, the ongoing leadership tussle between Chief Minister Siddaramaiah and also his deputy DK Shivkumar has intensified into a full-blown political storm for the Congress party. Reports now suggest that the Congress High Command in Delhi is evaluating both leaders before arriving at a decision. The tug-of-war for the Chief Minister's job began last week when Siddaramaiah completed 2.5 years of his tenure. Several lawmakers loyal to the Deputy Chief Minister Shivkumar travelled to Delhi to push for a leadership change. And the feud goes back to 2023, when both leaders had claimed the Chief Minister's position after the Congress won the state assembly elections. Later, there was a compromise that was reached and Siddaramaiah became the Chief Minister while DK Shivkumar was made his deputy with prime cabinet portfolios. He also retained the state Congress presidency. However, reports now suggest that a power-sharing agreement was also struck between the two camps. And under this agreement, they were to share the top job for 2.5 years each. However, both leaders are yet to publicly acknowledge this agreement. Now, last week, Siddaramaiah met with the Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge and also dismissed speculation about leadership change in the state. Now, Siddaramaiah said that he will present the next state budget and will continue to be in office for a full term unless the Congress High Command decides otherwise. The Deputy Chief Minister Shiv Kumar also met with Mallikarjun Kharge in Bengaluru, and the two were spotted leaving for the airport in the same car, sparking further speculation about the intensifying factionalism within the Congress party. But the Congress High Command has remained tight-lipped, at least publicly. Reports suggest that while Shiv Kumar is pushing the High Command to decide the leadership issue first, Siddaramaiah has instead proposed a reshuffle of his cabinet. So as the leadership battle intensifies, the Congress finds itself balancing political ambitions, caste dynamics and governance stability. The next few days are going to be crucial in shaping Karnataka's political future. In Australia, a senator has now been suspended for pulling off a burqa stunt in the parliament. Now, Senator Pauline Hanson wore a burqa to the parliament on Monday, and she's now been suspended for a period of 7 days and has been barred from representing the Senate abroad. The senator from Australia's One Nation party wore the burqa to protest after she was denied permission to introduce a bill in the Senate. A bill proposed an Australia-wide ban on the burqas and other clothing that covers the face. Her actions have led to outrage in the Australian Parliament.
Because if this is about the dress code, she is disrespecting a faith. She is disrespecting the Muslims out there, Muslim Australians. It's absolutely unconstitutional. This needs to be dealt with immediately before we proceed. It's disgraceful.
Senator Payman, resume your seat.
All right, but remember, this is not the first time that Pauline Manson has pulled off a burqa stunt like this. She done pretty much similar to something like this back in 2017 as well. And what she's been doing is she's calling for a nationwide ban on the burqa. Now, Australia's Foreign Minister Penny Wong moved for Hanson to be censured for Monday's stunt. This was after Pauline Hanson refused to apologise for pulling off the stunt.
Senator Hanson's hateful and shallow pageantry tears at our social fabric, and I believe it makes Australia weaker. And it also has cruel consequences for many of our most vulnerable, including in our schoolyards, who should be able to look to this place to set an example.
Now, Pauline Hanson has accepted her 7-day suspension, saying that it did not worry her at all. She also said that she will be standing for the next election in Queensland. Hanson's party, One Nation, has expanded its presence in Australia's Senate this May. The seats have doubled from 2 to 4. Now, Brazil's Supreme Court has upheld the imprisonment of former President Jair Bolsonaro. Now, Bolsonaro was in fact detained over the weekend for tampering with his ankle monitor, and the Supreme Court judge Alexandre de Moraes and 3 other judges have voted to uphold the detention. In his ruling, the Justice Moraes reiterated that there were some very serious indications that the former president was looking to flee during a planned vigil outside of his home. And he also pointed to the location of the nearby US embassy and Bolsonaro's close relationship with the American President Donald Trump, suggesting that he may have tried to escape to seek political asylum. Now, earlier in the day, Bolsonaro's family and also a member of his security team was seen entering into the federal police headquarters carrying personal items for the former president. Now, many of his supporters also gathered outside of the police headquarters to hold a prayer in his support.
Even if he owed nothing, even if he did nothing to deserve prison, he was persecuted and did not deserve it. The anger he inspires, the hatred people feel toward him, if it were up to his enemies, he wouldn't even be alive.
Now, during a hearing in Brasilia, Bolsonaro defended himself by saying that he had experienced paranoia between Friday and Saturday due to a medication side effect. He asserted that he had no intention of fleeing and that there was no breakage of the ankle's monitor strap. But later, in a video made public by the court, Bolsonaro admitted that he had used a soldering iron on the monitoring bracelet out of curiosity. His arrest order came just hours after the judge received information that the ankle monitor was violated. Now, Bolsonaro had been under house arrest since August and was monitored through the device. The South African nation of Namibia goes to polls on Wednesday, and there's one very unexpected name on the ballot, and that is Adolf Hitler. Actually, the candidate's full name is Adolf Hitler Unona. He's a 59-year-old politician from Namibia's ruling party, the Southwest Africa People's Organization, and the Namibian Adolf is currently the councillor for the Northern Ompudia constituency and is getting up for re-election in Wednesday's local body elections. Now, Adolf Hitler Unona has been in the news before as well, and that was during the last local elections in 2020. And that's when the world found out about his very interesting name. He says that it was his father who decided to call him Adolf Hitler Unona, and he doesn't have any real choice in the matter. Now, Adolf is reportedly going to turn 60 this year, so he says that it's simply too late for him to now change his name because of all the documents that have to get altered. It's not as though his name has held him back. Adolf Hitler Unona has won the council elections for his constituency before, in 2004, in 2015 and in 2020. Opinion polls say that he's likely to retain his seat in this election as well. Namibia used to be a German colony between 1884 and 1915, and that's why German names are found there. But of course, Adolf Hitler is not. Unona says that he doesn't know why his father named him after the former German chancellor, and that he added that he has no intention to follow in his namesake's footsteps, considering his continuing popularity in his constituency. Namibia's Adolf Hitler seems to be following through with his promise, though. All right, let's also now take a look at some of the other stories from around the world that are making headlines in the world of politics. Now, Iraq's next Prime Minister remains undetermined following the parliamentary elections in early November amidst the wrangling to build a majority. On the 17th of November, Iraq had confirmed its final election results, showing that Prime Minister Mohammad Shia al-Sudani's list had come first with 46 seats in the 329-member parliament. And according to the Election Commission, it could take many months for the parties to build alliances with other groups, since no party can form a government on its own in Iraq's 329-member legislature. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez nominated the veteran prosecutor Teresa Peramato for the post of Attorney General. And this is following last week's conviction of her predecessor, Attorney General Alvaro Garcia Ortiz, who resigned after the Supreme Court found him guilty of unlawfully disclosing the confidential information in a case involving a businessman. The Supreme Court, in fact, banned Garcia Ortiz from holding his post for a period of 2 years and imposed a hefty fine and ordered him to pay around $11,544 in terms of civil damages. The Trinamool Congress National General Secretary Abhishek Banerjee has formed a 10-member MP delegation to meet with the Chief Election Commissioner Gyanesh Kumar in Delhi. The team has been constituted to present details of citizen hardships allegedly caused by the unplanned execution of the Special Intensive Care Revision. After being presented with a list of attendees, the Election Commission of India has granted appointment to a TMC delegation for a meeting on the 28th of November. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Race to Power. This is Mohammed Saleh signing off. Thanks for watching.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.